Hi there. Tonight we're stepping back 500 years into the damp, drafty corridors of Tudor England. You're not just a visitor, you're the main character. Imagine the weight of a velvet gown, the flicker of candlelight on stone walls, and the constant low-level anxiety of trying to please a king who changes his mind more often than his jewel-encrusted hats. This is the ultimate high-stakes Game of Thrones. And let's be honest, your chances of surviving with your head and heart intact are, statistically, improbable. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love to see where you're all watching from. So drop your city and local time in the comments below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your story begins not in the gray mist of England, but under the warm golden sun of Spain. You are Catalina, daughter of the legendary Isabella and Ferdinand the warrior royals who united a nation. You've spent your 16 years surrounded by the scent of orange blossoms and the rich silks of the Alhambra Palace. Your education is second to none. You are pious, intelligent, and bred for one purpose: to be the Queen of England. This marriage to the heir Prince Arthur Tudor is a diplomatic masterpiece, a treaty sealed in flesh and blood. And so in the late summer of 1501, you bid farewell to your sun-drenched home and set sail for a strange northern island you know only from maps and letters. The journey is brutal. The Bay of Biscay throws your ship around like a child's toy, and for weeks all you know is the creak of timber, the sting of salt spray, and a relentless nausea. When you finally make landfall at Plymouth, the air itself feels different, heavy, damp, and smelling of wet earth and wood smoke. The people are pale and whisper in a harsh, unfamiliar tongue. You are paraded across the country like a prize, your face hidden behind a thick veil as tradition demands. Your future father-in-law, the shrewd and rather miserly King Henry VII, isn't having any of it. He marches into your private quarters and demands the veil be lifted, protocol be damned. He wants to see the goods he's paid so dearly for. After all, the first half of your massive dowry, 100,000 gold crowns, has already arrived. It's your first taste of Tudor impatience. And then you meet him, Arthur. He's a pale, slender boy of 15, polite and formal. You converse in Latin, the only language you share. Historians still argue whether Arthur was a robust youth who fell ill suddenly, or a boy who had always been frail and delicate, a question that will soon become monumentally important. For now, though, you are simply two teenagers pushed together by politics trying to find common ground in a cold, unfamiliar castle. Your wedding to Prince Arthur is a spectacle of Tudor propaganda. The entire city of London celebrates with fountains flowing with wine and lavish pageants acted out on the streets. You are finally married, and in a very public ceremony, you are blessed by bishops and put to bed with your young husband. What happens next behind the heavy bed curtains will become the most scrutinized and debated event of your life. You will later swear on your soul, with a conviction that never wavers for 3 decades, that you rose the next morning as intact and uncorrupted as from my mother's womb. Arthur, on the other hand, is said to have boasted to his friends, "I have been this night in the midst of Spain." It's a classic case of he said, she said, and the fate of a kingdom will one day hang on it. Your brief time as the Princess of Wales is spent at Ludlow Castle, a remote and formidable fortress on the border of Wales. But just 5 months into your new life, a terrifying illness sweeps through the castle. It's the sweating sickness, a mysterious and deadly disease. You both fall gravely ill. You, with your robust Spanish constitution, pull through. Arthur does not. At 16, you are a widow alone in a foreign country. Your primary purpose evaporated overnight. What follows are 7 long, miserable years in limbo. Your father-in-law, Henry VII, is a notorious penny pincher. He doesn't want to give back your dowry, but he's also not keen on supporting you in the style you deserve. You are the Dowager Princess of Wales, a title with little power and even less income. At one point, your finances are so dire, you have to sell some of your own plate and jewels just to pay your servants a deep humiliation for a daughter of Spain. But there is another prince, the younger brother, Henry. He is everything Arthur was not: tall, athletic, charming, with a boisterous laugh and a passion for life. He's 6 years your junior, and you watch him grow from a boy into a charismatic young man. A special papal dispensation is secured to allow you to marry him, to fulfill the alliance your parents intended. Yet for years, nothing happens. You wait. Then in 1509, the old king dies. The first thing the new 18-year-old King Henry VIII does is declare his intention to marry you. After years of uncertainty, you are swept up in a whirlwind of love and celebration. You are crowned Queen of England beside your handsome husband. The early years are truly golden. You are his intellectual equal, his trusted advisor, and his beloved wife. While he's away warring in France, you rule in his stead as regent, and it's under your command that the English army achieves a stunning victory over the Scots at the Battle of Flodden. You are a triumph. But you cannot give him the one thing he and the fragile Tudor dynasty needs most: a living son. You endure a heartbreaking series of miscarriages and stillbirths. One boy, little Henry, dies after only 52 days. You have just one surviving child, a bright and healthy girl named Mare. For now, Henry adores her. But a daughter isn't an heir. And as the years tick by, a shadow begins to fall over your golden court. The shadow that fell over your court begins to lengthen, creeping into every corner of your life. You are in your 40s, now a devout and dignified queen, but the royal bedchamber is a cold and lonely place. Henry, your once adoring husband, is distant. His obsession with a male heir has curdled into a dangerous fixation. And now that fixation has a name: Anne Boleyn. She isn't like the other ladies-in-waiting you've seen come and go. She's one of your own, the daughter of a courtier recently returned from the sophisticated courts of France. She isn't a conventional English beauty with blonde hair and blue eyes. She is dark, striking, with intelligent, challenging eyes, and a style that makes the other ladies look provincial. She carries herself with an unnerving confidence, and when the king looks at her, he doesn't just see a pretty face. He sees a future. Soon, the whispers in the corridors turn into pronouncements in the council chamber. Henry has developed a sudden and profound scruple of conscience. He has been reading his Bible, specifically a passage in the book of Leviticus that says, "A man who marries his brother's wife will be childless." This, he declares, is it. This is the curse. Your marriage, the bedrock of your life for over 2 decades, is in his eyes an abomination before God. It doesn't matter that you point to another book in the Bible, Deuteronomy, that sanctions the practice. It doesn't matter that you had a papal dispensation, the highest authority in Christendom. Henry's conscience conveniently only listens to the verses that give him what he wants. This is the beginning of what will be known as the King's Great Matter. He wants out. He wants the Pope to annul your marriage, to declare it null and void from the very beginning. Remember that long ago night with Arthur, the one everyone has debated for years. It's now the central exhibit in a legal case that will engulf all of Europe. If the marriage was never consummated, Henry's argument weakens. If it was his case, is stronger. You, however, are not some timid mouse to be swept aside. You are the daughter of Isabella of Castile, a queen in your own right. You are horrified, insulted, and furious. You will not go quietly to a nunnery. This marriage is valid. You are the true queen, and your daughter Mary is the legitimate heir. The court divides. The whispers become arguments. It's Team Catherine versus Team Anne, and you are fighting for your life, your honor, and your child's future. Historians still argue whether Henry's crisis was a genuine torment of a pious soul or the desperate self-serving excuse of a man in the throes of a midlife crisis. To you, it is simply a cruel farce. In a move of spectacular carelessness, the intimate love letters Henry writes to Anne are somehow stolen and sent to the Vatican, laying bare his motivations for all the world to see. The battle lines are drawn. The fight you've been digging in for arrives on a sweltering summer day in 1529. A special court has been convened at Blackfriars in London to finally hear the King's Great Matter. The air is thick with sweat and anticipation. Two powerful cardinals are here to judge you, and the entire political world is holding its breath. When your name is called, you don't answer the court. Instead, in a move of breathtaking courage, you rise, walk past the stunned judges, and make your way directly across the hall to where Henry is seated. You sink to your knees before him. The room falls silent. In clear, steady English, you speak not to the court, but to your husband. You remind him of your 24 years together, of your loyalty, your shared history, and the children you bore him. You call upon God to witness that you have always been a true and faithful wife, and you declare, for all to hear, that you came to his bed a true maid. When ye had me at the first, you plead, I take God to be my judge. I was a true maid without touch of man. Then having made your appeal directly to him, and to God you rise, give a small curtsy, and walk out of the courtroom, refusing to ever return. It is your finest, most defiant hour. Your appeal to the Pope in Rome works, but not in the way you hope. Your powerful nephew, the Holy Roman Emperor, has the Pope under his thumb, so the case stalls indefinitely. Henry, enraged by the delay, makes a decision that will change the course of history. If the Church won't give him what he wants, he will simply become the Church. He breaks away from Rome, declares himself the supreme head of the Church of England, and has his own archbishop grant the annulment. Just like that, your marriage is erased. You are no longer Queen Catherine. You are demoted to the insulting title of Dowager Princess of Wales, a cruel callback to your teenage widowhood. The consequences are swift and devastating. You are banished from court, and in an act of profound cruelty, permanently separated from your daughter Mary. You are moved from one dreary, isolated manor to another, Buckton the Moor, and finally, Kimbolton Castle. These are not palaces. They are damp, crumbling buildings where the chill seems to seep into your very bones. Through it all, you remain defiant in small ways. Your personal emblem has always been the pomegranate, a symbol of fertility. You continue to meticulously embroider it onto your deteriorating gowns a silent, constant protest that you are still the true queen. Historians still argue whether Henry's actions stemmed from a complete lack of feeling or if some part of him was tormented by guilt. To you, it makes no difference. In the cold isolation of your final home, your health finally breaks. You die in January 1536. Your last act, a letter to Henry, forgiving him everything. On the very day of your funeral, your triumphant rival, Queen Anne, miscarries a baby boy. The shadow has passed from you to her. The old queen is dead buried with a quiet dignity that you in your triumph failed to appreciate. The shadow has passed, and now the light and the shadow fall upon you. You are Anne Boleyn, but you didn't get here by accident. Your story is not one of inherited royal blood, but of breathtaking ambition and iron-willed strategy. Let's go back. You are the daughter of a shrewd diplomat, and your real education took place not in England, but in the glittering, sophisticated courts of the Netherlands, and most importantly, France. There you learned more than just etiquette and music. You absorbed cutting-edge fashion, a razor-sharp wit, and a taste for the new reformist religious ideas sweeping the continent. When you returned to the English court to serve as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Catherine, you are a creature unlike any other. You've seen how this game is played. Your own sister Mary had already been the king's mistress, a brief and passionate affair that left her used and cast aside with a couple of children who might or might not be the king's. You watch, you learn, and you decide you will not be a temporary amusement. So when the king's notoriously roving eye lands on you, and he begins his typical courtship of poems and expensive gifts, you do the unthinkable. You say no. You refuse to become his mistress. You write to him that your heart is yours to give, but your body belongs only to your husband. This polite but firm rejection is a move of pure genius. Henry, a man who has never been denied anything in his life, is utterly captivated. His interest snowballs into a desperate, all-consuming obsession that lasts for nearly 7 years. He showers you with jewels, titles, and estates, and still you hold him at arm's length. Your enemies start to whisper. They point to your exotic French manners and your long, elegant neck. They even claim you have a tiny sixth finger on one hand, a sure sign of witchcraft in their superstitious minds. It's a ridiculous claim, likely just a small extra nail, but it's a seed of malice that will be watered later. Historians still argue whether you were a cold, calculating opportunist who saw a path to the throne, or if you genuinely fell in love with the passionate, charismatic king who pursued you so relentlessly. Perhaps it was a bit of both. But one thing is certain, your strategy worked. After years of waiting, Henry has literally remade the religious landscape of his entire country all for you. He has made you the Marquess of Pembroke in your own right, a status no Englishwoman has ever held. You are pregnant with his child. And finally, in a secret ceremony, he makes you his wife. You have won. The crown is yours. You have the crown, but wearing it feels less like a victory and more like balancing a stack of priceless wobbly plates. Your coronation in the spring of 1533 is a lavish affair, meticulously planned to broadcast your legitimacy. But the crowds are sullen and sparse. On the streets of London, they don't cheer for Queen Anne. They mutter insults, calling you the king's whore, and openly mourning the banished Catherine. The adoration you craved is nowhere to be found. You are the queen, but you are not loved. You quickly realize that your entire position, everything you gambled for, rests on the child growing inside you. The 7-year game of seduction is over. Now you must deliver the prize. The court holds its breath. Astrologers confidently predict a prince. Henry, ecstatic, prepares the birth announcements for a male heir. In September, after a difficult labor, you give birth. It's a baby. A healthy, fiery, red-haired baby. And it's a girl. They name her Elizabeth. For Henry, the disappointment is a physical blow. The joyful proclamations have to be clumsily amended, with the word prince scratched out and replaced with princess. It's a humiliating anticlimax. You've done what Catherine did. You've given him a daughter. This is the turning point. The magic begins to drain from your relationship. What follows is a heartbreaking string of miscarriages. With each failure, the pressure mounts, and Henry's affection sours into irritation, then anger. The witty banter and flirtatious games that once defined your relationship are replaced by sharp, bitter arguments. You have a quick temper and a sharp tongue, and you aren't afraid to speak your mind to the king, a dangerous trait in a Tudor queen. Your chosen motto, emblazoned on everything from your servants' uniforms to your tapestries, is the most happy. Looking back, it feels less like a declaration and more like a desperate attempt to convince yourself. Meanwhile, your enemies are multiplying. The old guard who supported Catherine still despises you. The public distrusts you. Even your former allies, powerful men like your own uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, and the King's chief minister, Thomas Cromwell, are beginning to see you as a political liability. Historians still argue whether your fall was a carefully orchestrated plot by Cromwell, who saw you as a threat, or if it was simply born from Henry's own chillingly sudden decision to get rid of you. The truth is likely a toxic cocktail of both, because you've started to notice something. A quiet, pale, gentle lady-in-waiting has caught the king's eye. Her name is Jane Seymour. You see Henry give her a locket. It's a familiar gesture, and it sends a bolt of pure ice through your veins. The hunt is on again, only this time, you are not the prize. You are the obstacle. The ice in your veins was a premonition. The end doesn't creep up on you. It's an ambush. It happens with a speed that is dizzying, terrifying, and ruthlessly efficient. It begins with the arrest of a court musician, a young man named Mark Smeaton. After what one can only imagine was horrific persuasion in the dungeons of the tower, he confesses to being your lover. Then the floodgates open. 4 other prominent courtiers, men from your intimate circle, are arrested. The accusations are insane, almost cartoonishly evil adultery orgies, and in the case of your own beloved brother, George Incest. The final fatal charge that ties it all together is treason. You are accused of plotting with your lovers to kill the king. It is a spectacular work of fiction, likely penned by your enemy, Thomas Cromwell, and it is lethally effective. You are at a May Day tournament watching a joust when you are quietly told to leave. You are taken by river barge to the Tower of London. It's a grimly ironic journey. The last time you made this trip, it was in a gilded barge surrounded by cheering crowds on your way to your coronation. Now, you enter through the Traitor's Gate. In a final act of psychological cruelty, you are lodged in the very same royal apartments where you spent the night before you were crowned queen. The disbelief gives way to waves of hysteria, and then a strange, dark clarity. You know this is the end. Your trial is a performance. The evidence against you is nonsense scraps of misinterpreted conversations and forced confessions. You defend yourself with the same intelligence and fire that captivated the king years ago, but it's useless. The verdict was decided before the trial even began. Your own uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, presides over the court, and with what some say were tears in his eyes, sentences you to be burned or beheaded at the king's pleasure. Back in the tower, you wait. You famously tell the constable that you've heard the executioner is very good, and you have a little neck letting out a peal of laughter. It's the gallows humor of a woman with nothing left to lose. Historians still argue whether some of the accused men were entirely innocent of any indiscretion, or if their flirtatious courtly behavior was willfully twisted into something treasonous. Henry grants you one final strange courtesy. You will not be executed with the crude common English axe. As a former queen, you request the swift, clean stroke of a sword. Henry agrees and sends for an expert swordsman to be brought over from Calais, France, at great expense. The morning of May 19th, 1536, is bright and clear. You walk calmly to the private scaffold built on the Tower Green, your face serene. The French swordsman waits his heavy blade concealed. You have ruled for just 1,000 days. The sword falls. A collective quiet gasp ripples through the small crowd on the Tower Green. The reign of Anne Boleyn is over. The very next day, the king is formally betrothed to you. You are Jane Seymour. You are the calm after the storm, the quiet dawn after a long and terrifying night. You are everything your predecessor was not. Where Anne was a fiery comet, you are a gentle, steady star. Where she was sharp-tongued, fashionable, and confrontational, you are meek, modest, and soothing. Your chosen motto says it all, bound to obey and serve. You are the perfect antidote, the restorative balm for a king and a court traumatized by years of drama. You marry Henry just 11 days after Anne's execution. The speed is almost indecent, but it's a political necessity. Your mission is unspoken, but universally understood. Heal the kingdom, soothe the king, and give him a son. One of your first and most significant acts is to work towards reconciling Henry with his estranged eldest daughter, Mare. You plead for her, showing her a kindness she hasn't known in years, and you succeed in bringing her back into the king's favor and back to court. This single act earns you a level of love and respect that Anne, for all her charisma, never came close to achieving. Before long, you are pregnant. The entire kingdom seems to hold its breath. Henry is beside himself, with a mixture of hope and anxiety. He treats you like a precious, fragile treasure. When you have a sudden craving for quail, he has them specially shipped from Calais and Flanders just for you. The stakes have never been higher. Then, in October 1537, after a grueling labor that lasts for 2 nights and 3 days, you succeed where all others have failed. You give birth to a son, a healthy living prince named Edward. The joy throughout the kingdom is explosive. Church bells ring, bonfires are lit, and Henry is delirious with happiness. He has his heir. The Tudor dynasty is finally secure, but your triumph is tragically brief. The difficult birth has taken its toll. A fever takes hold, a postpartum infection that the royal doctors are powerless to stop. For 12 agonizing days, as the kingdom celebrates, you fade. You die just 2 weeks after fulfilling your destiny. Historians still argue about your true personality. Were you the gentle, submissive saint of Tudor propaganda, or a shrewd and ambitious player who simply chose a more subtle strategy than Anne? Whatever the truth, your death devastates Henry. He plunges into a deep and genuine mourning, wearing black for months. He gives you the one thing he gave no other wife, a full queen's funeral. And he commands that when he dies, He is to be buried beside you at Windsor Castle, his one true wife, the woman who gave him everything he ever wanted and paid for it with her life. For the first time, you are not a wife, but an observer, a courtier walking on eggshells in a palace of grief. The king is broken. Jane's death has hollowed him out. He locks himself away for weeks, refusing to see anyone. When he finally emerges, he is a changed man. The athletic, charismatic prince of his youth is well and truly gone, buried alongside his beloved Jane. In his place is a bloated, brooding, and increasingly paranoid man in his late 40s, his leg throbbing from a festering wound that never heals. He orders the court into mourning, and for 2 years, the glittering world of the English court is shrouded in black. While the king grieves, his chief minister, Thomas Cromwell, panics. Yes, there is an heir, the precious Prince Edward, but the Tudor dynasty still rests on the fragile life of one little boy. You need an heir and a spare. More than that, you need allies. With the Pope calling for a crusade against Protestant England, the two great Catholic powers, France and the Holy Roman Empire, are looking dangerously friendly with each other. Cromwell, the architect of the Reformation, knows his survival depends on steering England into a safe political harbor. He needs a new queen, and she must be a Protestant. Thus begins the great European bride hunt of 1539. It's like a 16th century season of The Bachelor, with the king's painter, the brilliant Hans Holbein, dispatched across the continent to create portraits of the eligible princesses. Henry II, grief-stricken to travel, will make his choice based on these paintings. The list of candidates is impressive, but Henry's reputation precedes him. The sharp-witted 16-year-old Christina of Denmark, upon hearing of his interest, is said to have replied, "If I had 2 heads, one should be at the King of England's disposal." A masterful and polite rejection. Cromwell's search eventually leads him to the small but strategically important German Duchy of Cleves. There are 2 sisters available, Amalia and Anna. They have been raised in a small provincial court with no training in the sophisticated arts of music dancing or witty conversation that Henry expects. They speak only German, but they are Protestant, and their brother is a powerful player in the anti-Catholic alliance. Historians still argue about the extent to which Cromwell deliberately oversold the match, perhaps encouraging Holbein to paint an overly flattering portrait to push his own political agenda. Whatever his motive, Holbein's painting of Anne of Cleves is sent back to London. It shows a demure and pleasant-looking young woman. Henry sees it. He likes what he sees. He gives his consent. The marriage treaty is signed, and the unsuspecting Anne begins her long journey to England and to a man she knows only from a picture. The deals have been made, the portraits approved, and now you are on a ship crossing the churning winter sea. You are Anna or Anne of the German Duchy of Cleves. You are leaving your quiet provincial home for one of the most glamorous and dangerous courts in Europe to marry a man you have never met. You speak no English. You cannot sing or play the lute. Your main virtues are your modesty and your Protestant faith. You hope it will be enough. You land in England and are taken to Rochester Castle to rest and prepare for your grand formal welcome by the king. What you don't know is that the king, giddy with anticipation, has decided to play a romantic prank. It's a tradition of courtly love he will arrive in disguise to get a sneak peek at his bride. So while you are watching a bull baiting from your window, a large heavy-set man with a bristly beard and clothes smelling of the stables bursts into your rooms. He is loud, boisterous, and he tries to embrace and kiss you. You, having no context for this bizarre behavior, are horrified. This is not your king. This is some drunken lout. You shrink away, muttering in German, your face a mask of confusion and disgust. The man is Henry, and he is utterly, profoundly humiliated. His romantic fantasy has crashed into the wall of your polite German reality. He storms out of the room and immediately begins ranting to his ministers, famously complaining, "I like her not, I like her not." Despite the catastrophic first impression, the wedding must go on. The political alliance is too fragile to break. You are married in a tense, joyless ceremony. The wedding night is even worse. Henry, soured on the whole affair, later cruelly testifies that he found your appearance so unappealing that he could not bring himself to consummate the marriage. He claims he left you as good a maid as he found you. The marriage is a sham, and within months, Henry is desperate for an annulment. But you have learned from the mistakes of your predecessors. You do not fight. You do not weep or make defiant speeches. You are calm, sensible, and completely cooperative. You agree that the marriage was never consummated and that you had a prior contract to another man. You make it easy for him. Your reward for this incredible display of common sense is astounding. Henry is so relieved that he showers you with gifts. You are given a massive income and a portfolio of beautiful properties, including Hever Castle, the childhood home of Anne Boleyn. Historians still argue about your actual appearance. Contemporary ambassadors described you as perfectly pleasant-looking, suggesting Henry's violent revulsion was more a product of his own bruised ego and insecurities. You are given the honorary title, King's Beloved Sister, making you one of the most powerful women in the realm. You have escaped. You have your freedom, your wealth, and your life. You have turned certain disaster into the best retirement package in English history. With the Anne of Cleves problem neatly and peacefully solved, a collective sigh of relief ripples through the English court. The king is happy, his beloved sister is happy, and the political crisis is averted. And into this calm, you appear like a burst of sunlight. You are Catherine Howard. You are the niece of the powerful Duke of Norfolk, which also makes you the first cousin of the infamous Anne Boleyn. But where your cousin was a sharp-witted political operator, you are not. You are a teenager, vivacious, pretty, and perhaps dangerously naive. You love to dance, you love to giggle, and you are to the ailing 49-year-old king a shot of pure adrenaline. Your upbringing is the key to your entire story. You weren't raised under the watchful eye of devout parents, but in the notoriously lax household of your step-grandmother, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk. The supervision there was minimal, and the sprawling dormitories where you and the other young ladies lived were more like a college frat house than a school for noble women. It was here in the late hours that you learned about love and romance first, through flirtations with your music teacher, and later in a full-blown sexual relationship with a handsome gentleman named Francis Derham. You even called each other husband and wife. This secret past is a poison that you carry with you to court. Your ambitious uncle places you as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Anne of Cleves, knowing full well the king is looking for a distraction. It works like a charm. Henry is immediately smitten. You are tiny bubbly, and you make him feel young and desired. The contrast with his serious, stately German wife could not be more stark. Just 3 weeks after his annulment is finalized, he marries you in a private ceremony. He is completely besotted, calling you his rose without a thorn, his perfect, flawless girl. The court, which had been grim under Jane Seymour's memory and awkward under Anne of Cleves, is suddenly alive again with music and masks. You are the life of the party, and the king adores you for it. Your chosen motto is no other will but his, a perfect reflection of what Henry wants, a beautiful doll with no opinions. Historians still argue about your precise age, at the time of your marriage placing you anywhere from a naive 17 to a more worldly 21. This question is central to whether you are seen as a foolish child bride or a reckless young woman who should have known better. For now, you are simply living a teenage dream. You are Queen of England. You have unlimited access to beautiful clothes and jewels. The most powerful man in the country dotes on you. But in your giddy happiness, you make a catastrophic error. You appoint Francis Derham, your former lover from the dormitory days, to be your private secretary. The ghosts of your past aren't just rattling in their closets. You've just handed them a key to the palace. Being the king's rose without a thorn is wonderful in theory. The reality is that you are a lively teenager, married to a man 30 years your senior. He is hugely overweight, moody, and suffers from a suppurating ulcer on his leg that emits a foul stench. He is often in pain, and his temper is notoriously short. It's no surprise that your youthful gaze begins to wander. It lands on Thomas Culpeper, a handsome, charming courtier who is one of the king's own favorites. He is everything Henry is not: young, exciting, and flirtatious. Encouraged by your sly and morally bankrupt lady-in-waiting, Lady Rochford, the widow of your own executed cousin, George Boleyn, you begin to meet with Culpeper in secret. Late-night rendezvous are arranged, love tokens are exchanged, and you write him passionate, incriminating letters. It is a foolish, reckless, and deeply dangerous game. While you are distracted by your new romance, the ghosts you invited to court begin to talk. A man who knew of your past life in the Dowager Duchess's household informs Archbishop Thomas Cranmer about your premarital relationship with Francis Derham. Cranmer is thrown into a panic. To accuse the king's adored new queen is treason, but to conceal it is also treason. He makes his choice. On All Saints' Day, while Henry is in the chapel, publicly giving thanks to God for giving him such a perfect, virtuous wife, Cranmer slips him a letter containing all the sordid details. Henry is furious at the accusers. He refuses to believe a word of it, convinced it's a plot to slander his flawless rose. He orders an immediate investigation to clear your name. But the investigation quickly uncovers Francis Derham, who under pressure confesses everything about your past relationship. To save himself, he also points a finger at the new man in your life, Thomas Culpeper. Investigators search Culpeper's rooms and find the damning evidence, a love letter from you. It's written in a girlish, emotional hand professing how your heart dies when he leaves you. It is signed yours as long as life endures. Historians still argue about whether your relationship with Culpeper was a full physical affair or an intensely emotional but unconsummated romance. In the unforgiving world of Tudor politics, it didn't matter. The secrecy and the intent were treason enough. When you learn you've been discovered, you are confined to your apartments at Hampton Court Palace. Pure panic sets in. In one last desperate attempt to save yourself, you break past your guards and run screaming down a long gallery, trying to reach the chapel, where Henry is hearing Mass, hoping to throw yourself at his feet and beg for forgiveness. You are caught just short of the door and dragged still shrieking back to your rooms. The hallway is known to this day as the Haunted Gallery. The king never saw you again. The Tower of London falls silent once more. The block is scrubbed clean, and the gossip about the fallen teenage queen eventually fades. For more than a year, King Henry remains alone, a wounded, bitter, and deeply suspicious old man. He is done with youthful folly and passionate romance. He no longer needs a prize. He needs a partner. He needs a nurse. He needs someone sensible and steady to see him through to the end. He needs you. You are Catherine Parr. You are a world away from the giggling girl who came before you. You are a mature, sophisticated woman in your early 30s, known for your intelligence, piety, and calm demeanor. This is not your first marriage. It's your third. You are a wealthy widow, twice over, experienced in managing large households, vast estates, and the fragile egos of powerful men. When the king proposes, you are not flattered. You are terrified. You are already in love with the dashing Thomas Seymour, brother of the late Queen Jane. But you know that a proposal from the king is not a request. It is a command. You see it as your solemn duty to God and country, a heavy cross to bear. Your life as Queen of England is less about glamour and more about caregiving. You are a companion and nursemaid to a monstrously large, often immobile king. You spend your days managing his volcanic temper, engaging him in theological debates to keep his mind sharp and tending to the foul-smelling, ever-present ulcer on his leg. You are a constant soothing presence in the chaotic court, a port in the storm of Henry's final years. Your greatest triumph, however, is not in managing the king, but in healing his broken family. You forge a genuine loving bond with all three of his children, the lonely, devout Mare, the brilliant, wary Elizabeth, and the young heir, Edward. For the first time, they experience something resembling a stable, affectionate family life. You personally oversee their education and create a warm atmosphere at court that they have never known. You are also a serious intellectual. In a move unheard of for a woman of your time, you publish a book of prayers and meditations under your own name, and it becomes a bestseller. It's a testament to your sharp mind and deep faith. Historians still argue about the true nature of your relationship with Henry. Did a genuine affection and mutual respect grow between the two of you? Or was it always just the careful, professional performance of a woman trying to survive a tyrant? Whatever the case, you have brought a measure of peace and dignity back to the English throne. But your passionate, reformist faith is far more radical than the king's, and powerful conservative enemies at court have started to notice. The calm you have carefully cultivated is about to be tested. Your keen intellect, the very thing that makes you a worthy companion to the king, now becomes your greatest liability. You engage Henry in spirited debates about religious reform, pushing for a more Protestant future. He enjoys the sparring, but he is old in constant pain, and his ego is a fragile, monolithic thing. The idea that his wife, a woman, might be his theological superior begins to chafe, and your enemies, the conservative faction at court, led by the cunning bishop Stephen Gardiner, see their opportunity. They approach the king, carefully stroking his pride. They whisper that it is unseemly for a wife to lecture her husband, especially when that husband is the supreme head of the church. They suggest your passionate arguments are not just intellectual exercises, but symptoms of outright heresy. Worn down by their sycophancy and his own festering leg, Henry lashes out. In a fit of paranoia, he authorizes them to draw up articles against you. He secretly signs a warrant for your arrest. The plan is set. They will search your chambers for your forbidden reformist books and then escort you to the tower. You are one step away from joining the ghosts of your predecessors. What saves you is a simple, staggering piece of luck. Someone on the council, leaving a meeting with the king, accidentally drops a piece of paper in a palace corridor. It is a copy of your arrest warrant bearing the king's signature. One of your loyal ladies-in-waiting finds it and in a state of terror rushes it to you. The sight of your own death warrant sends you into a complete collapse. This isn't a feigned swoon. It is a fit of genuine violent hysteria. You understand exactly what this piece of paper means. Word of your sudden terrifying illness reaches Henry, who, perhaps pricked by a rare pang of conscience, comes to see you. The next day, you put on the performance of your life. You go to him, not to argue, but to submit. When he brings up a thorny point of theology, you express shock that he would think you'd ever presume to instruct him. You tell him with perfect humility that you only debate with him for two reasons: to distract him from the pain in his leg, and so that you might learn from his great wisdom. It is a masterstroke of emotional intelligence. Henry is completely won over. He calls you his sweetheart and embraces you. Just then, the Lord Chancellor arrives in the garden with 40 guards to arrest you. Seeing them, Henry flies into a rage, berating the man and calling him a fool and a knave before sending him away in disgrace. Historians still argue whether Henry truly intended to execute you, or if the whole affair was a cruel, elaborate test to humble you. Either way, you passed. You outwitted your enemies. You managed your husband, and you survived. Your enemies are vanquished, sent away in disgrace. You have won the final dangerous game. Now, all you can do is watch as the great Titan of England slowly fades. Henry is almost completely bedridden, a prisoner in a body that has betrayed him. The grand palaces grow quiet, the air thick with whispers, as courtiers jockey for the power that will be up for grabs the moment the king's heart stops beating. You are there, a constant and calming presence, reading to him and soothing him as his massive frame is racked with pain and fever. The government is now run by a council, and you see your old love, Thomas Seymour, and his ambitious brother Edward circling ready to take control as uncles of the new young king. In the final days of January 1547, the end comes. Henry, bloated and barely conscious, can no longer speak. He is asked to give a sign that he dies in the faith of the church he created. He reaches for the hand of Archbishop Cranmer, the man who annulled his first marriage and validated his second, and gives it a firm squeeze. Then it is over. The great King Henry VIII is dead. His enormous lead-lined coffin begins its journey to Windsor to be buried next to Jane Seymour, his one true wife. The journey is plagued by a gruesome, almost gothic mishap. The coffin is said to have burst from the pressure of the gases inside a grimly undignified end for a man of his stature. You are now the Dowager Queen. You have done the impossible. You have survived him. You are free to marry your old flame, Thomas Seymour, and for a time you find the happiness that you had to defer. But your legacy, and the legacy of all 6 wives, is truly found in the children Henry left behind. You look at them and see the ghosts of their mothers. There is young Edward Jane Seymour's son, now King of England. There is Mary Catherine of Aragon's fiercely Catholic daughter, clinging to her mother's faith and memory. And there is Elizabeth, the brilliant red-headed daughter of Anne Boleyn, a constant reminder of the woman who changed the world and lost her head for it. Historians still argue Whether Henry's obsession with a male heir was a catastrophic failure or an accidental triumph, for in his quest, he not only secured the throne for his son, but also, unwittingly, for his extraordinary daughter, Elizabeth, who would become England's greatest monarch. Your part in the story is over. You have brought them to the shore of this new era. Now you can only watch as the tides of their reigns begin to roll in. And so, our long journey through the turbulent court of Henry VIII comes to a close. The echoes of grand debates and whispered secrets fade away, leaving behind the quiet stillness of history. The 6 women once queens, once rivals, once survivors can finally rest their stories told. Let the images of drafty castles, heavy velvet gowns, and flickering candlelight soften and dissolve into the gentle darkness of your own room. The weight of their crowns, the burden of their choices can all drift away, now becoming as light and distant as a half-remembered dream. There is nothing more to worry about, nothing more to solve. The great story has found its end, leaving only the quiet peace of the night, the soft hum of the world outside, and the gentle, easy pull of sleep. Sweet dreams.